I think I speak for most of the Villa fans. Excited in the sense of what he's done at Sevilla and Villarreal. 4 Europa League titles, semi-final of the Champions League with Villarreal last season. Got to the final Europa League with Arsenal. And this club, Aston Villa, people don't realise is that these owners, they don't want to be a top 10 club or stay in the Premier League. They want European football. And I know a lot of fan bases say the same thing. It's like a broken record. But Aston Villa are that sleeping giant ready to get back into Europe. When I played under Martin O'Neill, we got into Europa League 3 seasons in a row. And we probably didn't take it as seriously then because we were that disappointed to not get in the Champions League, missed out on 4th. But now the Europa League's become a better competition, and it's a competition that Aston Villa want to be in. And he's not going to come to Aston Villa either to be a top 10, club, manage a top 10 club. He's going to want to come to Aston Villa and get him into Europe.
Gab, what's he going to have to do differently? Or what's he going to have to do with that squad to get the best out? I mean, because we saw the performance at the weekend, which looked light years above anything we've seen this season. So what is he going to have to do differently? Or is he capable with that squad of making the massive improvement required?
Ali, you look at the names in that Aston Villa squad, Coutinho, Buendia, Watkins, Ings, Dendoncker, Kamara. They've got so many quality players, but what Aston Villa fans felt watching Aston Villa for the last 10 months was that the tactics didn't work. Weren't playing with wingers. Steven Gerrard got rid of Traore, Trezeguet, El Ghazi, and probably left us a bit short with wingers. And on the weekend, Bailey on the left, Watkins on the right. And you have to play with width sometimes because I think you become too predictable when you get your wingers stay inside, Ali. Everyone wants it to feet. People were making runs into the channels. Ings looked sharp. And he changed it to a 4-2-3-1. 2 sitters, then Donker and Louise. And he
be surprised to see no McGinn. I know John's foot. I know I've been listening. And
he's not been as good as he should have been, but I tweeted last night to say to Villa fans, let's not forget what John McGinn's done for Aston Villa, how good of a player he is. He's not playing at his best, but I'm sure John McGinn will get back into that Villa team and show, the performances he's shown for Scotland. Jacob Ramsey as well, he's come out the side, but I'm sure he will break back into it. So Unai Emery's got an outstanding squad for me to work with, and when Kamara's back in training now, so there's a lot of players fighting for that midfield role.
What would you do about the captaincy? Because Emi Martinez picked it up when John McGinn was on the bench. Emi Martinez actually didn't get on massively well with Unai Emery when he was at Arsenal.
Oh, didn't they?
No, and I'm not saying that will continue, because he has more than proved himself, I think, since then. But I think the lack of opportunity that he got under Unai would have upset him. Yeah, I
think the big thing about the captaincy is that you're gonna have to choose someone that you're gonna see as a starter. So I wouldn't pick my captain after my first game. I'd wait 2 or 3 games and decide which player's going to start. Is it Tyrone Mings? Is it Kamara in centre midfield? Do I keep it with McGinn? Or is it Martinez, my number 1 keeper by a country mile, going to play every game, vocal, a leader? So I wouldn't be surprised if we just give it to Martinez.
Do you think that it was heavy for John McGinn to have that captaincy?
I think the big thing about the captaincy for me, for John McGinn, was the fallout from when Tyrone Mings lost it.
Yeah.
Villa fans weren't sort of overly happy about that
the way
decision.
That it was all done.
Yeah, the way it was done. And I think that added more pressure to John McGinn.
Which is a little bit unfair.
Yeah, it was fair. And I've seen him at Scotland. Ali's wore the armband and he's everywhere, writing about as a leader, scoring goals with the armband as well. So I don't think he needs to be captain. I feel like John McGinn will play the same and be a leader on the pitch without the armband. But some players like Tyrone Mings, when they've got that armband on their arm, it adds to their game. They feel like they have to be that much stronger back there. So I would look at giving it back to Tyrone Mings or Martinez.
Do you think that when Unai Emery came to Arsenal, he was unfairly treated?
I don't know if he was unfairly treated because some of the football wasn't great, was it, under Unai Emery? And maybe Arsenal fans were still a bit, we were invincibles not long ago. Like why are we so far off the leaders? So you can say unfairly treated, but maybe just wasn't the right job for him at the time. But what he's done at Sevilla and Villarreal, Aston Villa fans should be excited. And you look at our local rivals, Wolves, looking for managers, can't find one. And we've had that pull to go and get a top manager away from Villarreal to Aston Villa.
Here's one for you. How does he start to get a tune out of Coutinho, who's... Listen, mate...
Is it possible?
Well, that's my point. I think he's been a big disappointment.
I just don't... I see Buendia sharper, younger, more hungry. I feel like Coutinho, if he couldn't pick up his performances for his mate, Steven Gerrard, who brought him in, relied on him, he just wasn't really at it, Ali. He wasn't really working hard, not creating. And I feel if you play one of them positions...
He could be away in January.
Yeah, if you play one of them positions, Ali, you played your players a number 10 role or number 8 role. It's a luxury role where you have to create. If you're not creating, then you might as well bring another defensive midfielder.
Think you let him down?
100% let him down. I said if I was him, I'd be apologising to Gerrard. I'd be texting him, wherever you want to contact him and say, sorry, I let you down, I didn't perform. You heavily banked on me. He signed him in the summer, big wages as well.
Started off really well as well.
Yeah, but what frustrated me with Coutinho as well is that recently he got left out of the Brazil squad, and then the game after he was running around like a headless chicken because he thought the World Cup's coming. I've got to be at it. And then the game afterwards, he's back to the lazy Coutinho, not getting on the ball, and he won't go to the World Cup. The amount of attacking players Brazil have got, Ali, if you're not starting in Aston Villa's side and scoring goals and assists, you won't be going to the World Cup with Brazil. So he's let him down, but it's a fresh start for everyone. When a new manager comes in, everyone's got a clean slate, haven't they? And
that's a really good point about being a fresh start for everybody, because for Unai Emery, I think going into Aston Villa in comparison to when he went into Arsenal, the difference is I think there was such a massive degree of expectation at Arsenal because you're coming off the back of Wenger out protests. They were trying to get Wenger out for at least 2 seasons that I remember, and the atmosphere had turned really toxic. So then a new manager coming in from abroad, the expectation for him was almost, well, it has to be top 4 right now. We have to get top 4.
Waste,
the signings, some of the signings that he made, I don't think were very good signings. But when you then compare the expectation when Arteta came in, I think it was more of a let's rebuild, let's get rid of people, let's start again kind of thing.
Very much the same as United, Laura, to a certain degree.
Whereas
after
Unai had to hit the ground running and got judged on that.
And this season as well, Laura, Ali, he won't be, you need to get into the top 7 this season. This season we're about, get us into the top half of the table if you can. Sort out the players that you want to keep. January, if you can get rid of a few players and you want to bring a few in, he won't just be given 100 mil to go and buy who he wants. You'll have to get rid of a few players because there's players on big wages at Aston Villa, and it'll be next season. Can you get Aston Villa into Europe next season? These owners, they're seeing how well Newcastle are doing, Ali. They're seeing how hard it's going to be to get into the top 6. So they've gone for an experienced manager who knows how to get teams into Europe.
Is that sound crazy what I'm going to ask you, but is that a model now? Is the Newcastle model the kind of model that Aston Villa should be looking at? It's a bizarre, I can't believe I'm asking you that question.
Yeah, but they haven't got the funds that Newcastle owners have got, but Aston Villa's owners are very rich. If you look at owners of football clubs,
but Newcastle haven't really went out and spent the millions perhaps that a lot of people thought they would have, and the success story there at this moment in time, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic to see.
100%. And but they're working hard. Look at the Spurs game, Ali. They wanted it more. The defence, Botman,
brilliant,
Byrne at the back, Trippier right back, goalkeeper. They wanted to win the game, so they've got that hard working mentality from Eddie Howe as well. But the player, if you went through Aston Villa's squad of players, when the injuries are back, you'd be looking at them and thinking, this team should be, fighting for Europe. So that's why they had to change Steven Gerrard, because the players that they've got, Ali, Watkins, Ings, England internationals, Buendia, Coutinho, Kamara they brought in, at the back, Mings, Konsa, Matty Cash, Digne's been injured, he'll be back. Ashley Young's been outstanding. Martinez is the top goalkeeper. McGinn, Ramsey, they've got some really good players.
Also, I think it's important who you get in behind the scenes when you look at Newcastle, bringing in Dan Ashworth and then his effect on ins and outs.
Yeah.
That's super important as well. One more question just about Unai Emery. I think sometimes it's very personal, isn't it, as to how people react to you as a manager in the Premier League. So sometimes in some situations your face just doesn't fit as well as other people.
Yep.
And I think he was a bit of a victim of that at Arsenal. I think when Arteta came in, an ex-player, quite cool, Arsenal fans obviously know and love him dearly because of his history with the club. I think he also was afforded a little bit more wiggle room and the ability to start, how many games was it, 3 or 4 games with a loss the season before last. And although there were some people calling for his head, I don't think it was ever going to be that with the Arsenal hierarchy. I think they backed him the whole time. So I think sometimes when you've got a manager like Unai coming in, learning the language as he goes as well, and being judged on that, and having to do his interviews and really giving it a good go, and being ridiculed for
I didn't like that, and I think even when he
unfair.
signed on Monday, everyone's putting these things on Twitter. I don't want to say it, but mocking him. And how many of us can speak different languages? And we laugh at him. But
we struggle with English on this show, don't we?
Exactly, you're not wrong. But I think this season for him, Laura and Ali, it's get Villa away from that relegation zone. January, try and move some players on, bring your own players in. Then the summer, do exactly the same. And next season, he won't have 2-3 seasons to get Villa into Europe. Next season, the owners will be thinking, we need to get into Europe, top 7. It's not a case of top 10 next season is good enough. So there's a lot of pressure on Unai Emery, and Villa fans, they're okay at first. They'll be excited, but if you're not getting the results, Ali, like most fan bases, they'll soon turn. So if you're looking at this time next season, Aston Villa have got to be showing that they're going to be fighting for Europe.
Really? So
100%.
Do you think with the other teams that are in the Premier League at the moment, it's doable?
I think it is. I think they've got the owners who will back him with the money. Very rich owners who, they don't want to just be a mid-table team, Laura. That's why they brought him in. They could have had other options that would have been cheaper. They paid $3 million to get him out, release clause from Villarreal. So they're like typical owners who, they want to be European nights, Ali, away and at home at Villa Park, bringing that back. So I think that's what they'll demand of Unai Emery.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.